Um, as y'all know, the NFL allows you to bring in a number of draft prospects for visits in the lead up to the draft. And the Saints are certainly doing a lot of homework. We've talked a ton about the Saints and what they've done from a quarterback perspective, but there are other players that obviously the Saints are bringing in and heavily considering. And the one that caught my eye today is a visit that the Saints are going to take, I believe, is the best possible scenario for the New Orleans Saints in this draft. That includes every player on the board, all of them. And it's because of the position he plays, that current depth chart on the Saints roster, and the spot where the Saints pick. I think it is the best case scenario. And before I get to the name and get to the position and get to the reasons why I think this, I think it's important that I start with a caveat that I don't think he's going to be there when the Saints pick. That's just the reality of the situation. The Saints are at 9. It feels like you probably need to be closer to 5 to get there. And before we get to talking about him, I don't favor the Saints trading up for him. While I think he is the best fit for New Orleans, I don't favor trading up because I do not believe the Saints are in a position to mortgage draft picks, to give away draft picks, to get rid of assets for one player. You need to take as many young, cheap players as you can. And getting rid of them, no matter if they're second or third round picks, is just not the way the Saints need to operate. So with that out there, the Saints are bringing in Mason Graham, Michigan defensive tackle, for a visit. And I think this would be a grand slam of a pick for the Saints. Why do I say that? Well, one, it's just the prospect, right? Like, he is considered a top 5 player by just about every draft analyst that you look at. He's a guy that was massively productive at Michigan in his time there. If you turn on the tape of his performance against Ohio State this past season, we all realize just how good Ohio State was this year, right? You look at that tape, he was wrecking the Buckeyes, wrecking them at the point of attack. And you look at, first of all, the Saints, and while Bryan Bresee has really good numbers and production from a sacks perspective, he's not great against the run. Now, he can get there. He's a third-year player. But he's not great against the run right now. You look at Colin Saunders in the last year of his deal. Yeah, you brought in Devon Godshaw, but that's not a guy that you expect to be a long-term fix at the position. He's up there in age and has been a little bit declining. So you have a need, a defensive tackle, to pair with Bryan Bresee to be a run stopper. And Mason Graham is thought as the best run stopper in this draft. And then you just consider what's important in the league. And one of the things that the really good teams have is just elite interior defensive line play. You look at the Chiefs and what Chris Jones does to opposing teams. And I'm not telling you that Mason Graham is a lock to be Chris Jones. Chris Jones is a multi-time All-Pro. But guys that go in the first 10 picks of the draft, a lot of times are considered potential multi-time All-Pros. You look at what the Eagles did to the Saints in Week 3 with Jalen Carter. They couldn't block him. They could not run their offense because they could not handle Jalen Carter. And that was when the Saints were looking good on offense. And again, I'm not telling you that Mason Graham's guaranteed to be as good as Jalen Carter, but they come from the same profile. Massively productive interior defensive linemen from big-time football powers, national championship pedigree. That's what you're talking about. When you talk about Mason Graham, that's what you're talking about when you talk about Jalen Carter. Graham finished this past season with 45 tackles, 7 for a loss, 3.5 sacks, pass batted at the line. And I think if the Saints could get him, that would be a better pick to me than if Cam Ward fell to 9. Now, Cam Ward has got a bigger upside because he's a quarterback. He's also got a way lower floor because he's a quarterback. I think that Graham has a really, really high floor and a really, really high ceiling. And he plays a position the Saints need desperately. These guys are hard to find. Yes, the Saints need wide receiver help. Yes, the Saints need help at safety. Yes, the Saints need to look to plug holes on the interior of their offensive line. They've got to get more linebackers. They just don't have enough linebackers. They've got to find someone to rush the passer. We talk about this almost every day. There are needs all over the field. But a great place to start, rebuilding your football team, which that's what the Saints are doing. Whether they want to say it or not, it's a fact. A great place to start would be the defensive interior. And it's far, far easier to find someone to go play wide receiver or find someone to go play safety or find someone to go play running back than it is to find someone to be a game changer at defensive tackle. Like, that is just a tough, tough place to find a guy. Chris Jones, first-round pick. Aaron Donald, first-round pick. Jalen Carter, first-round pick. Like, these guys a lot of times come from the top of the draft. And it doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to be a star. But I just like the idea of the Saints finding Mason Graham and him falling into their lap at 9 and him being a transformational piece on their defense. If you don't know Graham's story, he was a 3-star recruit. Michigan inked and developed. And that's how they became a national championship level program, by finding and developing elite offensive and defensive linemen. I mean, that team that won the national championship, yeah, J.J. McCarthy became a first-round pick. We don't know what he's going to be in the NFL because he's hurt. But that team became what it was for 2 years because they kicked people's butts at the point of attack. Period. And Ohio State knows that better than anybody. And Ohio State's got pros everywhere. And Mason Graham was in the middle of that for the last 2 years for Michigan. So to me, if he somehow, some way got there, if you got teams that got too aggressive, that tried to get in the top 10 to go get a quarterback, and people started backing up, and folks decided they want to go offensive line instead of defensive line, and somehow, some way, he fell into the Saints' lap at 9, which happens every year. Somebody that we think is a top 7 player falls to 12 or 15. It happens every year. If that could happen at 9 for New Orleans, I think that is the best case scenario in this entire draft for the Saints. Just my thoughts on the matter. I got a couple of who-dats back there. Mason Graham. 1, can the Saints draft him at 9? Will he be there? And 2, is he the best potential player the Saints could end up with?
Man, I'm going to be honest, Hunt. I like Mason Graham, but the Saints have so many holes, so we just need best available. If he falls,
well, I think he is. Like, he's top 5 on like everybody's big board, and you're picking 9th.
It's just like we have so much holes, and like any pick we take is not going to be an immediate like, okay, good, we needed this, let's move. It's like we have so many holes. Like, if anybody falls, I'm like, get him. Let's say Abdul Carter comes out, I don't know, he has a weird tattoo somewhere and he falls in the draft. You know how it always goes. He falls. Take him. Like, I'm at that point where beggars can't be choosers.
Abdul Carter would be very good. There's no doubt about
beggars
that.
Can't be choosers.
Beck?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me who any of those guys. I would say the only one that I would probably not be happy about is, well,
Shador?
Well, no. I think Ashton Jeanty, even though I think he's a really good player and I think he's going to be a really good running back in the NFL,
yes,
I just don't know that that's what the Saints really. I don't know if that's the position of impact the Saints need to take.
It just feels like if you do your work properly, you can find your starting running back after Kamara in the 5th round.
Yeah,
if you do it right,
easy,
you can.
Now, could he be Saquon Barkley, or in terms of impact? Yeah, I think he could be. But still, I think that there's just other positions that you really need to fill before that.
Yeah, I'll say that I'll be disappointed if it's Ashton Jeanty. Any other pick, I've seen so many different guys mocked there. I'm cool with that. A running back, brother, I might lose my mind. I might be like, no way.
That's our Saints look today. If you're looking for our Saints content, Hunt on Saints on YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Got a lot of what ifs coming in for What If Wednesday. We'll do that coming up next. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button So you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.